Deb has not joined us yet,
Okay.
And we're missing, is Ernie with us?
and Ernie is not with us yet.
And April? No April, huh?
Well, it's only January.
And we don't have any attendees
We do not.
to discuss right now. So why don't we get started then if there's no objections? And do we need to call a formal attendance or is this just,
Yeah, I need to do roll call.
okay, go ahead.
Anton Boder,
I'm here.
Ron Allen,
Present.
David Kirstein,
Here,
Rick Meinstein,
Here,
Tom Loader.
Here.
Thank you.
all right. Welcome, everybody. It seems like a long time since we met, but we did have that interim meeting with the developers, so it's not like we haven't been together. We did have a meeting on December 1st and Jamie provided us minutes to that meeting, as well as synopsis and questions and comments made during the stakeholder meeting we had with developers. I don't think we need to approve those, but we do need to approve the minutes of the meeting. So I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
so moved.
All right, we have a move by Ron, or was that David?
There's David.
David.
I'll second.
All right, so then we got a second. Any discussion on those? I thought they captured what we had discussed quite well. And gave us all extra work to do, or mostly Jamie.
Yeah,
Looks like
Yeah, you
she's
guys
been
are good
busy.
like that.
So if I hear no discussion on the minutes, you wanted to do a roll call vote for the minutes?
Yes. Anton Boder,
Approve.
Ron Allen,
Approved.
David Kirstein,
approved.
Rick Meinstein,
Approve.
Tom Loader.
Approved.
Thank you.
All right, the next agenda item is just to touch base with the agenda to see if there's anything else any members wanted to bring up, but we're gonna hopefully get through this EV ordinance so that it can get moving forward. We have lots of things happening around the town that the longer we put this off, the more opportunities we're gonna lose. And then Jamie put on here community action grants, which I'll let her go over, but this is a great opportunity that is being funded through the state government that has received some of the ARPA funds, and they're trying to develop plans and things. So we'll discuss what that all could mean for Scarborough, and then some quick updates, and we'll move forward with the proposed meeting of 16 February. Anybody else have any agenda items they want to bring up? There's one more that we want to talk about is the Project Grace.
Oh, yes, thank you.
And that won't take too long, but Project Grace reached out to us again, as they usually do for their expo. Seeing nobody wanting to add anything, I'm going to turn it over to Jamie to walk us through this well-developed ordinance in hopes that, or do you want to have a little bit of discussion ahead of time based on the stakeholder?
Well, I guess maybe if anybody has any comments or insights or anything they want to share from the stakeholder meeting. I know Anton wasn't there. The minutes that or the summary of questions from the stakeholders did have a link to the meeting recording and both the video and the audio. I think what I included in these minutes though didn't, because I didn't want that out for public consumption at this point. But I sent them to you separately, and if you want the link resent again, I'm happy to do that. But I had kind of said in the meeting that we weren't going to be, posting that anywhere, so I didn't want them included as part of the meeting agenda. People can request it and it will be sent to them if they are interested in seeing that, but we're just not posting it currently, unless someone, demands that we do. So,
No, I think that's a good idea. The only comment I want to make is that number one, I thought doing this was a good thing to check off the list. We didn't do this in a silo, and we can say we reached out. I don't know, Jamie, have you heard anything from any of the developers in terms of their follow-up that they were going to provide some sort of pricing of laying conduit or whatever was needed based on our conversations we were having?
nope, I haven't heard anything from them. So I do need to reach back out to Dan Bacon because he had said that he would have some of that information. And Angela shared after the meeting that the development, the Beacon, the apartments on Higas, they're putting in a couple EV chargers, and they may have some pricing that they can share with us that's more current than what other folks may have that did EV charger installation, over the past few years. So we're going to check in with them to see if they would share their costs for installing the chargers at their property.
That'd be super helpful. My general comment from that is, and it's not surprising that the developers kind of want us to, take the slow road here and go out and figure out what they're doing in other countries and other parts of the country and other states. And this isn't rocket science. It's nothing new. And I don't really think we need to study this to the point where we're just going to procrastinate, and partly that's in the design so that they're not involved and they're not affected. They didn't offer any sort of solution as to why we shouldn't have this. They didn't offer any reasons. In fact, they did say this isn't, a wrong direction for Scarborough to be taking. But they want us to really study it, and we don't need to do that, and we don't need to waste the time doing that. And I just fear like, if that's their expectations, then, they're probably not going to be happy that we're going to move forward with this as rapidly as we are. But there'll be an option, there'll be a time for them to speak up again. This isn't the last crack that they have. If it goes to ordinance, then it goes to council, and there'll be public hearings for this. But I would just urge us not to delay and have Jamie and have us go and do a bunch of research for sticking up a couple of pedestals with some chargers on it and laying conduit, which they do all the time because they got to run lighting wires for parking lot lights and things of that nature. I think we've got to move this thing to the next step. And regardless of what was their concerns, one of the things that I want to make sure that we're all on the same, we share the same picture here is, there was a concern that they may extend or have to create more parking spaces because of this ordinance. And, they brought up the fact that bringing in more parking spots means more pervious surfaces, and therefore the planning board doesn't like that. But that's not necessarily the way they have to do things. If we require parking with EV chargers, they're going to have to figure out how they're going to manage their parking with their tenants and manage the access to those chargers. It's not the ordinance's issue. It's not our issue. It is their issue, such as we make them do landscaping in certain places. And they have to do robust in other places that would heighten buffering. So this isn't about an inconvenience of having tenants park. It's more of they may have to look how they develop their parking plans, and maybe they don't have to assign everybody an individual parking spot of that or something like that. But we should not put it on us that by having this ordinance is going to increase the number of parking spaces because they have to develop charging islands and those kind of things. So I just wanted to bring those couple of points out that I got from the meeting. And I'm certainly hope that others will pipe in here and share their thoughts.
I,
Go ahead.
I agree with what with Rick's summary, because we're the first step, and there are lots of opportunities for more input and more arguing and more resolution. But I think it would be a mistake to go any more slowly than we are, and it's pretty clear that the main concern for the developers is cost. And if there is an ordinance that the town approves, then the cost is, and the design of the spaces, as you said, is up to them.
Deb, you had something?
Yeah, after that meeting, I did contact Revision and they put me through to Barry White, who is working on a report for South Portland. They contracted with him to put together a report on the status of charging. And his first message was, why don't you just wait for the report? Because there's a lot of information that will be here. His second message was that he does not recommend requiring level 3 chargers at any site. He feels like those level 3 chargers will go in where they're useful and that that's being coordinated elsewhere. And then his recommendation was to, yes, make sure the conduit is there, that you're going to be able to electrify every space in a condo development or some number of spaces in a commercial parking lot. But his recommendation was to really limit the number of installed chargers because of things that are shifting in his mind fairly fast. So he was talking about electrical control units that would, instead of requiring a full 40 amp circuit for each charger, would split that between several chargers and decide where the electricity goes using something. He was talking also about the bi-directional access to those batteries. So pulling electricity off, that he thinks that's where we'll start to see more employers putting in chargers if they can decrease their own electricity demand charges by using electricity from their employees' cars at certain times of day. And he was going to check for me. I haven't heard back whether it would require a larger conduit to be able to do the bidirectional work. But he would like us to have that information before we put our final proposals together.
Does he know when his report will be complete?
He did not tell me. He was like in progress. Let me poke him right now while I'm thinking about it. And I do apologize for being late. It's ski bus day. I could have been at town hall at 8, but I couldn't be back at my house at 8. So you could also check with South Portland
Yeah, I'll touch
to
base with
find out
North
when that's going
Portland.
to be ready. Barry.
The only thing I'd say to that, Deb, is okay, that's fine. As we learn more information and as the technology gets more sophisticated, because that's what we're talking about here, is the sophistication of these charging systems. Ordinances can always be revised and they can always be updated because of changes in technology and changes in information that's out there. But let's not wait for a revision report that is coming from, a potential vendor of systems. And I'm not sure that we want to get too wrapped up in all of this sophistication. If that happens, it's like building automation systems. It will get into the market as time goes on. My point is that let's not wait for that. If we need to go back and revise based on new information and advances in this technology, we can do that. But let's get a baseline ordinance out there so that there's the assumption to developers that they need to come with a plan for EV charging. And right now, I disagree with not having level 3 chargers as part of it. Big box stores, they're gonna do it, yes, but there's nothing, we have no teeth in it if we don't have it in writing. And so we could lose a big opportunity here in Scarborough pretty soon on a big box store that could be coming, and we'd lose a great opportunity right now if we don't have something.
I actually agree with Rick. I think this is a good example of analysis paralysis. And I think we need to get something going.
Right, but my concern is about stranded resources. So forcing the installation of too much infrastructure that we would not eventually use. So I'm 100% behind the conduit. I'm 100% behind moderate level installation requirements. Barry says it's certainly possible to design systems where those chargers would be movable for those condo associations. That was the original question I'd really gone with. And again, he said that moving that electrical source to different places, like there's all kinds of things that we want to make sure that we're talking about. And installing rows of level 2 chargers in places where they don't end up getting used would end up being a waste of resources and an unfortunate image problem for.
Well, I'm not suggesting rows by any means. This isn't going to be a EV parking lot situation.
The last estimate we had would have had 50 level 2 chargers in the Hannaford sized parking lot. And I don't want us to ask for that. It was like 10% installed or so 5% installed or something.
But there was a combination between level 3s and level 2s, right?
Yep. Yeah, it changed to half and half level 2, half level 3.
Well, I'm going to push back on level 3s. I think Hannaford can do that if they want to. I think the state's going to ensure that there's level 3s at highway places. I would love to see the town look at a level 3 at some of our beach properties. And I am perfectly willing to let the big box stores use that as a way to compete against one another, rather than requiring that $10,000 cost.
I'm not sure I want level 3s at beaches on the backs of the taxpayers. Developers are making money. That's why they're doing what they do, and they're not gonna starve because we've asked them to put in level 3 chargers. But the taxpayers are gonna have to foot the bill on the beach level 3s.
Rick,
Wouldn't there be a compliance or enforcement issue with putting them at the beaches where person could recharge a car in a matter of a portion of an hour and stay at the beach for 4 hours? I think they're probably not very manageable at a location like that either.
That's probably true.
That's a fair point.
Well, I'd like to say something. Can I? Yeah. Is it okay to use the name of the box store? I mean, you use.
Yeah, it's out there. Costco's looking to come to Scarborough. I mean, that's out there, and it's okay to say that.
And I feel like I'm on this committee in part to just speak up as a resident, and I really like Costco. I would love to see them in Scarborough. So I wouldn't want the committee to do anything that would discourage them from building here. So I think we should try to move forward very quickly and get the ordinance in place. But on the other hand, I don't know that we want to say stick to an EV requirement that is something that's going to dissuade them from coming, or is difficult to do. So I'm looking at the row on the chart that would apply to them, I think. Retail sales and services greater than 25,000 square feet. Is that the row that we would be looking at?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So the two things on there that I wouldn't quite know about is, and I'm asking about, is 100% conduit, right? Is that the second to right most column is 100% conduit? Accessible? Oh, no, it's accessible. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong column.
Accessible parking
Yeah,
spaces.
we're saying 50%, a minimum,
50%.
well, a minimum
Okay.
of 50% of the parking lot.
Okay, so what does that mean? Where will this conduit be? Is it at the outer edges of the parking lot, or does it have to be like underneath
The developer,
parking
wouldn't
lot?
it be?
Are there going to be posts throughout the parking lot? With wires just buried just slightly underground? What does that mean to be 50% conduit on a parking lot that's going to be huge? It's going to be, a football-sized field parking lot, and right smack dab 50-yard line of the parking lot in the middle of nowhere. What does that mean to have conduit under there? Is it going to be, close to the ground? And B, how many parking lots like that in Maine have conduit, 50% available? What is, if they were going to say, oh, Scarborough, we would love to be in Maine, but Scarborough is throwing up all these obstacles, we're moving to Freeport. I'd hate to see that, or we're going to move to Kittery, or
Well, Rocky made a very interesting point during the stakeholders that says that, and came right out and said that this ordinance is not going to necessarily make developers move somewhere else. It's the same thing with landscaping and those kind of things. They figure it out because that's the requirement. I don't think Costco is going to move somewhere because we're requiring them to put in conduit and some chargers.
Can I interject here? I think my wife Betsy this morning was looking at the planning board documents for Costco. I think their parking lot is going to have 700. I'm just quoting this from what she told me. We may both be wrong. I think they're talking about 714 spaces for the parking lot. And I recall she mentioned there was going to be 8 slots for EV chargers. Is any of that right?
I've looked at it. I can't remember the exact number of parking spots. There are a lot, but here
But that
too,
wasn't very
the
many
way you
EV
set that up
chargers.
is you're going to have parking islands because the ordinance requires islands as part
Right.
of a parking lot development. So there's a requirement to put in islands, and there's a requirement to put in lights. But you run conduit to a light, but you run the first conduit and a little bit bigger so you can put in extra wires, and you branch off and you go down the island and you put conduit so that it's available for EVs. Branch of a main feed that's going to feed the light pole.
So if just thinking about the numbers that Anson just shared about Costco, we're looking at 70 spaces for EV chargers, and that does seem like a lot. So can we scale back that 10% number to something more like 5% or even 2% to see, and maintain that half the parking lot at least needs to be equipped so that in the future, it would be easy to add additional, but as a starting point, we start with a lower number installed. Deb has her hand up.
My feelings on that is let's go with what we've got and let it get chopped down as it goes through the process. But if we go in low and they chop it down even more, then, we've kind of lost our bite.
Even 5% though, we'd be looking at 35 chargers.
Yeah, 20 years from now.
But
What
20 years,
But
date?
we're preparing for more installation at a later date. So I think we need to find the balance between what we currently have and where we expect that we need to be in the next 20 and 30 years. And that's why we're requiring that they at least lay the groundwork in development so that they can add more at a later date.
If Costco decides to come to Scarborough, what day will the store open? How many years?
It'll be
Pardon?
at least a year and a half from now or 2 years.
Okay, so we're talking how many chargers do they need in 2 years? Is it 70, an unreasonable number? Is 35 an unreasonable number in 2 years? Not today.
Well, I think according to their planning documents, unless I'm completely wrong, they came in with a number that's much smaller than that. But I haven't seen it with my own eyes, so I don't know.
Well, we shouldn't be worried about one particular project.
It's a
No,
good-
But it's a
a
good
good
example.
Sample.
Yeah,
good
it's,
example.
it's when any large box store that comes in today, and we don't have this ordinance even approved yet. So 2 years from when it gets approved is when they're going to start using these things. How many more vehicles are determined in the little rise up to 200 zillion electric vehicles are there going to be in 2 years?
I just want to come back from the perspective of a driver. I have been to numerous places that have EV chargers, and if I'm just shopping, I don't plug in. I don't plug in at the library when I go in to get a book. I don't plug in at town hall when I come to a meeting, because it's extra work for me to make sure I get to the spot where it is and do the work of plugging in, and I'll just charge somewhere else. I recognize that we need to be thinking about folks that will not have home chargers, but I am just not able to imagine a world where 50% of the people at Costco's on the busiest day of the year want to plug in while they're in Costco's buying their food. For them to start with
is
8
there-
seems perfectly sufficient. If they're prepared to provide chargers for maybe, I mean, I'm just trying to think in terms of usage. If there were chargers for maybe 80% of anticipated staff, and then another, I'm talking long-term, like 8 or 10 for customers. Like,
But you just said because it was not convenient for you to do it. What if it was convenient? Would you just say, hey, I'm running in here, boom, slap it in, go back, come
No,
out and do it?
no, because I still have to push the button, go around to the front of the car, unwind the cord, plug it in. When I get back, I mean, it's not terrible, but if I'm just going into Costco to shop for 20 minutes, I'm not going to do that. The like return
Well-
on a few kilowatt hours is just not going to.
Yeah,
794 parking spots at Casco proposed.
Yeah, that was on one side, and it wasn't there another one that was a lot more?
No, that's the total. That's the total in
What's the total, Rick?
794.
794. And how many spots are for E EVs?
Well, I don't want to talk about a plan that's been presented to not baked at the planning board right now, but I can tell you developers don't voluntarily say they're going to put in an EV charger. And if they do, it's 1 or 2. So it's this is why we're doing this. We can't get them to do it on their own.
a weird question, but are they asking Costco to be a prettier building than normal?
They have to meet the building guidelines.
Yeah, so they have to spend extra money to come to Scarborough to be a prettier building than they normally do.
Well, I don't know if they have to spend more money to make it prettier. Making it prettier does not necessarily mean it costs more. They may have to use a different building material or have a different color palette. But it certainly has to meet the standard.
So there's no difference between that and landscaping and this is all I'm saying. And the EV requirement.
Right. And same thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a requirement that it's a cost of bringing in business, but you know, they wouldn't come here if they didn't plan out making a profit.
Right.
I don't know. If we reduce it to 5% across, and I mean, when you stop and think 794 parking spots, I've never in my life, well, I guess I can't say that. It's been busy around Christmas time at Sam's Club where it's been hard to find a parking spot. But generally speaking, 794 is a lot of spots. It's going into a center where we haven't had any EV chargers per se, and there's a lot of residential units in that area, and they've got nothing.
And I think Costco might be something of a unique case because it'll be the first one in the state. And so you may have people coming from farther away to go to that store. And if they have an EV, they may need to charge in order to get back, or they may want to just to ensure that they're able to get back. So I don't think that 80 EV truck parking spaces though seems realistic. I think that seems like a lot. I think 40 even seems like a lot, but it would be a place to start.
Just as a question, what is the downside with just pushing forward with what we've got right now, fully expecting it to be modified in numerous different ways as it goes forward? I mean, at least we're getting it off the ground.
Go ahead, Deb.
I think that the risk is looking unrealistic and silly. And I think that does our committee a disservice if we walk in asking for them to install 70 chargers and be conduit ready to install 400 chargers. Like I can't say that with a straight face.
And I think, you know, we went through the motions of having this stakeholder meeting. It would be good to see or consider some change based on their feedback so that they know that they were heard, and hopefully they will buy in a bit to this process, and hopefully, you know, work with us instead of against us. If we haven't made any changes based on the feedback that they provided us at the stakeholder meeting, I think it's going to be a rough road for this ordinance to move forward.
I'm in favor of 5%.
You want to cut everything in half?
Can we vote on that, or can we, somehow come up with a motion to decide on what number needs to be under the percent EV? And I don't know how parliamentary procedures work, but I'd like to just decide on a number. I think 10. I think we hear is some people feel 10% is too high. I heard 5% is, maybe high but reasonable, and I would like to see if we can collectively vote on a number.
Deb had her hand up also.
Oh, sorry, I'm reading the ordinance. Sorry.
No, I think I'm just saying the same thing again and again. So yeah, I mean, I have been arguing to pull these numbers down throughout. That may be an argument that I'm going to lose. If we cut it down to 5% and 25% conduit, I think that helps. If we give a condo association, I'm thinking of somebody with like 50 units, give them 2 extra parking spaces that have to be EV ready. And then they have to be prepared to drop posts for EV chargers for the rest of their parking spaces or something like that.
I'm much more comfortable with 5 and 25%.
And from a sustainability perspective, putting a lot of stuff out there that we're not yet sure exactly how it's going to play out, putting 35 or 70 level 2 chargers in a Costco parking lot.
Well, that's not putting chargers in. It's just putting in very rudimentary infrastructures that would
I thought
allow for the expansion of chargers
Wasn't it 10% installed?
as needed.
Wasn't it 10% installed?
That's what it
Yes.
is currently, yeah.
That's what it's currently.
Yeah, I can't support that.
That's fine.
So what can you support?
I mean,
I
there's an idea here that we could cut these down.
I am, if a building were going into service today, I would be of a Costco size, I would be comfortable with 4 level 2 chargers today. I love 8. In 2 years, I'm wondering if we can figure out a way to tie it to numbers of EVs on the road or something like that.
I think that's going to make it too difficult
Yeah.
for planning
Yeah.
and for the developers to figure out. That's
We could put in an annual review that we would take a look at it and adjust those numbers. Yeah, I don't know. I've poked Barry. I'll see if I can get his report any sooner rather than later. We can go forward with 5%, 25% as we're continuing to work on it. I wouldn't object to that.
Ron and David both have their hands up.
My question is, well, when we go to somebody else that says they're going to look at this, the first question I think they should ask is, how does this compare to other places? Can we justify the numbers? And 2, I do go back to what Rick and Deb both said about being modifiable, and something in it stating that this is an initial look at what requirements are in the short term, because it's a changing environment, that this needs to be reviewed in some n number of years. I'm comfortable with that. David?
Yeah, I agree with Ron. I think in the first place, I think we're concentrating on retail, which is a different animal from where we started several years ago when we talked about installing conduit when a home or a condo is built against future use. I don't think, given the current environment and the possibility that there will be more electric vehicle traffic, or everything could become too onerous. I don't see a lot of consumer demand from people driving into Costco and not being able to plug into one of 40 chargers and going into the store and saying, you know, if you had more chargers, I'd come here more often. I don't see that happening. And I think the idea of putting something out and getting it there that is feasible, thinking about Ernie's proposal, I think I'm afraid we're spinning our wheels. I think we need to put something out to the town and let the next level of review deal with it. And clearly, we're pretty comfortable with something like what we have in front of us today. If we need to change that a little bit, that would be great. But I don't think we can predict with any degree of confidence what EV traffic in an unbuilt big box store is going to be 2 years from now. It just doesn't seem right to me.
So for the
Appreciate that, and
commercial,
I
Go ahead,
appreciate what people are saying, and I really like Jamie's idea that if we go in with this, developers are just gonna say, well, you didn't even hear anything we said. And so in retrospect, I think, going down and cutting, I think we're pretty set on residential in terms of single family homes and 2-family homes. Maybe we can cut the multifamily down a bit.
well, maybe the installed piece, Deb. Because
Oh,
right
yeah.
now we're saying 20% installed. So I think that we can work a little bit with that number.
Oh, yes, drop that. Yeah, drop the installed part down. But in residential, I really want every parking spot at least conduit ready.
Yeah, and that's how it is currently.
Okay.
So I'm hearing we'll pull down the installed spaces for multifamily. Do we want to set that at 5% also to align with, and then maybe we can add in some language about being prepared with kind of like mobile units or movable units to accommodate, people who may need an EV parking space. We can work on that. Revision said that would be possible, right? To have movable chargers or removable and.
Yeah, that you could have the like sort of base station in place and then be
Yep.
prepared.
Yeah, based on that, I mean, the percentage says that the movability would give them a lot of flexibility if we go with this. And so that would be pleasing to a developer. I'm happy to cut those numbers down in terms of installed units. Just like I am with the commercial side. And quite honestly, maybe we could cut down in the capabilities and others because of the huge amount of parking that potentially could happen with those larger box store sizes. I'm not sure we need to cut down too much further on the other ones because they appear to be, I think, reasonable.
Well,
But
I'm
across the
thinking,
board, cutting things a little bit shows that we listened and we understand that there's some uncertainty here. I don't want to cut it too far down because I think eventually they may get cut again. And then we've lost some bite. We've lost our ability to help Mainers.
so do we, I guess I just want some more concrete than not too much, some more concrete numbers. So, so I was hearing for the large retail sales and service, 5% installed and a maximum of 25% so basically split, we'll look at the total column, which is the third column from the right, have that at 25%. We'll do 5% installed, and then we can figure out how we want to deal with the other 20% in terms of capability and readiness. So maybe we just do 10%, 10%, 5%. So we're looking at a total number of spaces that can be EV at some point at 25%. Does that make sense? So looking at the large commercial example, we would do 5% EV installed, 10% EV ready, and another 10% EV capable. So that will give us 25% of their parking lot, which for Costco, would essentially be 200 spaces in the future.
And I'll be comfortable cutting it further in the next rounds of the process.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of that I feel like for large developments, that still gives some wiggle room. That still gives some play. 200 spaces is still a lot, especially if people are going to continue to charge primarily at home as this the, use of EV and EV adoption evolves. Thoughts?
I agree. Those numbers sound good to me. I think they're high, but I think that, we want to start out high because we're probably going to have to reduce it at some point as part of these negotiations and discussions. But I think it's a much more reasonable number as a starting point. So I like Jamie's numbers.
And I wish I had a crystal ball to predict how many spaces we're going to need and how quickly EVs will be adopted. And it does look like that's kind of the trajectory that we're on, is that we will be ramping up. But I think that this gives us kind of some realistic numbers currently in the ability to increase as demand dictates.
I could live with it. In hopes that we'll have a good, robust conversation with the ordinance committee.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to need, so maybe this is a good time to talk about next steps, unless there's any feedback on the language of the ordinance. So I did borrow heavily from the model language that was provided from GPCOG and Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission. So if you folks haven't had a chance to kind of read through that, it would be really good if you could and provide me with some feedback. I do need to have our planning staff take a look at this, and we can start talking with the ordinance committee folks about, I think we had talked about workshopping this first with them and kind of maybe doing a bit of an education session, maybe similar to an introduction similar to what we did with the
Stakeholders.
commercial stakeholders, just to kind of introduce this to them. I think that this is something that has not necessarily been on their radar. So I think some education is going to be necessary to kind of get them up to speed. So we can potentially shoot for their February meeting. I've had a really hard time getting stuff on their agenda. So I'll start those conversations as soon as possible, so that we can at least start the conversations with them sooner rather than later.
Thanks, Jamie. That sounds good.
So does anyone have any comments on the language, or do we want to do that as homework, and I'll give you kind of a due date for when you can get comments back to me?
I haven't read it.
Okay.
I'll pull it up so it's on my screen.
I think that's chapter 405B that you want to reference on 7.2.3.
Yeah, where my note is, where I need to confirm that that's the right reference.
Yeah, I think it's 405B.
Okay.
That's what it tells me here, but I could be misinterpreting it.
Okay. And then there's another note in there just about the minimum number of
Accessibility
charging
ones.
stations. So this was the recommendation within the model language that was provided by GPCOG. So we had basically said that 100% of the handicap accessible spaces need to be EV ready. And so they're talking about minimum numbers of EV installed based on the parking lot size. Or based on the number of charging stations that are installed in the parking lot. And then the language also said that just because it's accessible doesn't mean it can only be used by someone who is disabled or has the handicap plate, that it would be available to the public. And that's how the language reads in there. I don't know if we're comfortable with that. Just because it seems like if you have one accessible space and someone who doesn't need an accessible spot is parked in there, that kind of
that's a funny feeling. That gives me
yeah.
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 I wonder if
because
that would
it
even be
almost
legal.
says that It's almost breaking the rule that if you don't have a handicap plate, you can't park there.
Yep.
And this is saying that, well, you might not have a plate, but you've got an EV, so you can park there.
Yep.
It just
I don't
doesn't
like
feel
that.
good.
Mm-mm.
All right, so I'll modify that. I'll remove that, that language also.
Well,
Basically,
Right direction.
okay, so if you all can get comments back to me by the 4th, that's next Friday. That would be really helpful, and I'm going to have see if planning can meet the same deadline for me for their review. I will update the numbers in the tables as we discussed today and send this back out to you all today, so that you'll have that and hopefully be able to, and I'll send it to you as a Word document. That'll probably be easier for
For
review and
redlining.
comments. Yep. So I'll put that on my list of fun things to do after this meeting, is to update that and get it out to you all.
Or Jamie,
Mhm.
maybe a Google Doc?
A Google
because
Doc?
then all of our comments would land on the same page rather than all scattered.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you,
hopefully it
Jamie,
won't
for
mess
all
up
of
my-
this.
Hopefully it won't mess up the formatting too much. But that's fun.
Yeah, sometimes that
will.
happens, but
It will, but we'll do the comments on that and then you can move them over to your formatted
Yeah.
version in Word. I don't actually do anything for production in Google Docs because it makes me crazy.
Yeah, it does make me
Um,
crazy.
But for shared editing, it's
it's
useful.
good to see what other people are thinking too.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so next steps, I will send out a Google Doc of that for you all to review and provide comment back to me by Friday the 4th. I'll also have planning do the same, and I will start discussions to try to get this on the ordinance committee's February agenda.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So moving on. Oh, look, we're not that far behind schedule. That's awesome. So looking at new business, community action grants. So the meeting packet included an overview of the grant program. This is a new grant program out of the Governor's Office of Innovation. Basically to support implementation of Maine Won't Wait, the climate action plan. So there are a number of steps that we need to take to be eligible for this grant, but essentially the grants are between $5,000 and $50,000, and they are intended for to help municipalities implement portions or identified kind of priorities within Maine Won't Wait. There are 72 roughly, I think, recommended actions. Those were provided in the packet also. And if you implement one or more of those 72 actions, you don't have a match requirement for this grant, meaning the state is, if it's accepted, if the proposal is approved and accepted and funded, then we basically have whatever amount of money up to $50,000 we request to implement these certain actions. And we don't have to provide any kind of local match either through cash or in-kind services to the project. We would anyway, because we'll be providing, volunteer hours at least to implement it. But it's nice that we don't have to kind of track that that match. In order to be eligible for these grants, however, we need to complete a community self-assessment. That was included in the packet also. We have not taken these steps. So the grant was just announced in December. And so we need to do a community assessment. We need to do a community meeting, basically getting the public input on the priorities identified through the community assessment. And the town council needs to pass a resolution stating that there is a group who is going to kind of spearhead this effort. So I provided a draft resolution in the packet also, which basically says that I, as sustainability coordinator, will be the one designated to kind of oversee and lead that effort. And certainly in conjunction with the sustainability committee and conservation commission as well, may be interested in activities.
Transportation.
Also, yeah, that's a good call. So this first grant round, there are 2 grant rounds planned this year. The first one, applications are due March 22nd. The second one, applications are due September 20th. So I'm not sure that we are going to be able to complete the assessment, a community meeting, and have the council pass a resolution by March 22nd in order for us to be eligible to apply, especially with the other priorities like our EV ordinance that we need to move on. But I can try. I think it's hard also to get items on the council agenda. They're pretty full, and they're pretty busy as well. So
But for free money, and
For-
everybody's going to be in that same position, and those of us that at least have a sustainability committee and coordinator may be the ones best positioned. It may be easier to get money in March than in September.
exactly.
My exact thoughts, Deb.
So
Just from what I'm hearing out there, there's a lot of places that don't even have a committee like ours or any structure like we have. And
Yep.
put your resolution to the town council doesn't seem like a big stretch. They do it all the time. I mean, we just had one when somebody retired. Those kind of things happen all the time.
Yes. So my thought, the biggest one I think was the community meeting. I was going to suggest that we have perhaps a joint meeting of the 3 committees that we mentioned: Transportation, Conservation Commission, and Sustainability. I think that would give us a good number of Scarborough residents looking over this, and obviously open it up to whoever wants to participate. But
Can
trying
we
to
throw
schedule
in long
something-
range planning too?
Mhm. Yep.
could that be called the community meeting?
Yeah, and call that the community meeting, essentially. And so trying to
Okay.
get those members of those 4 groups together to kind of review the community assessment and provide some feedback. We can, again, like I said, put it out to the public that they're welcome to attend and participate. But I think that would be at least, you all are engaged and have a sense of what's going on in town, and where the needs are. And so we could kind of kick off the community meeting by going that route.
I like the plan. I really do. And
Yeah.
GoPIF is really, the GoPIF is the acronym for the Governor's Office of Innovation and all. So if you hear the word GoPIF, I was actually involved in the development of these grants. I sat in there representing Efficiency Maine, and they really want to get these things going. This helps with the Maine Won't Wait, the climate action plan, that they're just itching to get stuff checked off. And the funding for this is coming from the ARPA. And so I'm worried if we wait till September, we may be too late, too little too late.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have, like, they're saying it's going to be a total of, I think, $4.5 million, but they're splitting that into multiple funding rounds. So I think,
And the fact that there's also these other grants, there's 2 other grants that are out there. One's not too relative, but the other one is where municipalities can come together and work. And to me, those are the ones that need the September timeframe, because they have to deal with multiple municipalities, and we're trying to do this on our own.
so I would say, look over the list of actions, like the 72 actions that are in that are provided with the meeting agenda materials, and identify, a couple that we might want to work towards. I mean, what we're doing right now with the EV charging ordinance, that's an eligible action that could get some funding. And so there's lots of stuff in there. I think, the solar ordinance could have been They're talking about LED lighting conversions. That's an eligible action. There's a lot of eligible projects that the town would want to consider. We just need to prioritize and decide which we want to focus on. We can do more than one if we want to. And
We could update our energy plan to kind of be more consistent with the comprehensive plan that got revised. And that is an eligible step to take as well.
yep. So, and then if funded, it's a 2-year time frame. So we'd have 2 years to complete the project. So,
I think it's a win.
yeah, it is. And so I will start working with Conservation Commission, transportation and long range planning to see if we can come up with a meeting date and time to start looking over this. I'm thinking it'll probably be mid to late February, which would then still give a month to kind of write the proposal. And I'll also start working with Tom Hall about getting the resolution on the council's agenda. So get that on his radar.
Is the community assessment this one-page community resilience self-evaluation?
It's actually not one page. There's, for some reason, a blank page in there. If you keep scrolling,
Oh.
it's actually like 5 pages.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
most
keep
of them
going.
are yes, no kind of
Yeah,
things.
with an explanation. So
Yeah,
that's
that
something
does
that
not look hard.
it's not that hard. No, it's just going to take some time. And I'll get going on that. But I think also we need other departments to be involved in some of that, probably planning and public works as well, public safety perhaps. We did just go through not too long ago the flood resiliency checklist with Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission, and a lot of that information I think is captured in the self-assessment. So I can reference that information as well. So
Well, I'm sorry, Jamie, where is this document?
it's
It's at the end. Yeah, just
Yeah, if
keep
you-
scrolling and scrolling. I hadn't scrolled far enough to notice it in preparation for the meeting. I'm sorry, Jamie.
I'm sorry, it's
okay.
the end of what?
of the agenda. If you open up the agenda that was sent out, all of the
Yeah, I did, and for me, it seems like it stops at workshop discussion topics on
It's a
page 11.
35-page document. It's a 35-page document. The action steps begin on page 25.
Well, I have the Sustainability Committee agenda here. I'm looking at that. It's not part of that document. It's another document.
Nope, it is part of that document. I'm
Look,
wondering
look
if
at the top. Do you have a 35-page document up?
No, I don't.
Okay, then you don't have the right document.
all right.
No, I have an 11-page. I think
Let
I'm
me-
a
So
day
it's the
late
one
and
that
a dollar
she's-
short. I only have an 11-page document. I hate
It's
to
the one
say
she
that.
sent just a couple days ago. So there may have been
I
an
know.
earlier edition.
I'm
sorry.
going to resend it to everyone right now, just so
I'm sorry, I
everybody
kept-
is looking
I
at the
kept-
same thing.
I've been looking for it. I can't find it. It's the story of my life, I think. This is the one that you sent out on 121.
Yes.
I only have 11 pages. I don't know why.
Well, I wonder if for
I
some
have
reason
one
it got clipped.
attachment.
I don't know.
I have one attachment, Sustainability Committee Agenda PDF.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
should have been 35 pages. So I just resent it. Hopefully it'll come through to everyone.
Sorry for being clueless.
No, it's not your fault. And how are you supposed to know that
Oh,
there's
here's-
actually 35
okay.
pages?
All right, it's funny. Okay, when I look at it, the attachment was on the email. I see 35 pages, but the one that I saved to my desktop only has 11. So there's something else going on. Okay, I see it. Community action grants.
So I take it based on this, Jamie, that the resolution would go to the town council after we have the community meeting
Right.
and we develop those priorities.
Yep.
And so if we had that meeting in February, mid-February, this could theoretically go to the council, the first council meeting in March.
Yeah, potentially, and possibly sooner based on their schedule. I haven't looked at what their February meeting schedule is, because the resolution, I don't think we have to say specifically in the resolution what we are going to focus on, just that we have checked the boxes of doing the self-assessment, doing the community meeting, and designating kind of the person
Kind
or
of
group.
designating some next steps.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't think this is a big stretch for council to, I mean, I'm sure.
No, it's free money. They should be
Yeah.
all over this.
Right.
So yeah,
Yep.
get them a copy of it early and get it on their calendar. If that looks good.
Yep.
And I've just printed out the list of actions so that I can make notes on it. It may be worth sending, like putting something in the newsletter town newsletter as soon as possible, with a link to that as well, and a place that people can like email suggestions or a Google form that they can use for suggestions, in addition to that meeting date.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Once the meeting date is set, then, and we'll put that out for the public as well, but having a way for people to participate outside the meeting, I like that idea, Deb. As long as our deadline to provide comment is the meeting date, I guess. So we'll get it out
Yes.
sooner to them, but they need to still provide their input and feedback by whatever date the meeting is held on.
Or maybe the day after. I can imagine being at the meeting and thinking of something in the night and
Yeah.
then wanting to say about it tomorrow.
That's true. We need time to process.
Yeah.
Rick
That's
and
very
Jamie-
exciting.
Oops. Rick and Jamie, I may need some help on this question. And it's an annoying question. And I risk annoying people. So if we look at reducing emissions through clean energy innovation strategy area C, the example I want to ask is, when we make a suggestion of something that we'd like to see done, how does the money actually get spent? And if you look at adopt a renewable energy ordinance, I don't know if we got $50,000 to do that, where does the money go? If we enter into a long-term service contract or power purchase agreement, we know where that money goes. So I would need some help understanding the applicability of that $50,000 to some things that don't actually have costs associated with them.
So it may mean we hire a consultant to help provide, if we're talking specifically about renewable energy ordinances, they may look at our existing ordinances and identify where things fit in, where modifications could be made, or they may develop the language for us to consider and adopt. So some of this may mean hiring consultants to help with it. Other things may mean, like if it is like lighting upgrades and things like that, it's actual on the ground projects that are going to be happening.
Okay, that's helpful for me. I just,
The other thing is that you can also provide some of the money can be used for incentives toward development. And you know, it brings me to the point where in the stakeholder meeting, they were saying, is the town going to give us incentives to put in chargers?
okay.
You know, there's some wiggle room there. I don't like incentives to do something an ordinance says, so, you know. But if they want to go above the
Not
ordinance,
monetary incentives anyway.
right? But if they want to do more than that, you could offer incentives based on that. Does
Yep.
that answer your question, Dave?
Yeah, it does. I just, it does answer my question.
Sorry, Jamie, can we just circle back? Do you need anything formal from this committee in terms of moving that EV ordinance to the next steps in terms of saying that this is something that the sustainability has approved? And
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know that it needs to be voted on because we haven't necessarily finalized it yet. I mean,
Well, I know we haven't finalized it. You're gonna do some wiggle, but that could be part of the motion.
Yep.
To approve. I just want to make sure that you don't have to come back to us and wait a month in order for us to gather around and raise our hand.
Sure. So you want to circle back, go back to the EV ordinance and have a motion to move this to, or request that the ordinance committee take this up at their earliest convenience, which I don't want that in there, as soon as possible on their agenda, pending the revisions that were discussed at this meeting. Does that make sense?
It does. It just gives you the ability to say that this has been, vetted through the committee and is ready to go on to the next step.
Does anyone have a better motion than what I just
Motion?
said?
Nah. So moved, seconded, whatever we're ready for.
All right, so
that
we
thing.
move to request that this go to the ordinance committee after changes discussed at this meeting have been made. I hear Deb motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right,
David second.
no further discussion, right?
No,
You want to do a roll call?
I think, yeah, sure. Anton Boder,
Approve.
Ron Allen,
Approve.
David Kirstein,
Approve.
Rick Meinking,
Approve.
Deb McDonough,
Approve.
Ernie Milner,
Approve.
Tom Loader.
Approve.
Okay, great. Thank you all.
There. I just want to make sure you had everything.
Good.
Got our eyes.
All right. We also have Project Grace. If we're done talking about community action grants, I think that I know the next steps for the grants. If we want to move on to Project Grace.
Yep.
Okay, so Project Grace reached out. They're doing their fuel rally in February. Looks like February 19th from 10 to noon. It's going to be an outdoor rally. And they are planning to hand out Efficiency Maine's tip booklet. The library, I think, is going to take that on. They wanted to know if this group wanted to be involved. It sounds like they're going to try to do some videos about what different groups in town are doing related to energy efficiency and things like that, because in-person things are still difficult, and who necessarily wants to stand out in a parking lot for 2 hours in February? That doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun, especially if the weather continues as it has been lately. So they were asking if this group wanted to work with Allison Carrier, the town's communication person, to put together a video or some content to promote energy efficiency or other work that we are doing. Is there any interest from this group? Or any thoughts?
We got super involved one year and it was kind of a bust and we kind of got
That
burned.
was in the hardware store, wasn't it, Deb?
Yeah, it was.
And then we
I
did it
remember
again
that.
in public safety.
Yep,
And
that was the year Rick
Okay.
and I were there. We handed out light bulbs.
Yep.
excellent. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch. Where are they this year?
They are going
The
to
parking
be
lot of public safety.
public safety and town hall parking lot.
Oh, boy.
It's like the fresh air market or the farmer's market, but early.
Uh, gracious,
But there is
I
going to
don't
be
know about
chili and
that.
chowder there.
Yeah, there is going to be chili and chowder. So there will be warm things to eat. So I think they were really not necessarily looking for us to be there, but for us to perhaps contribute a video or some other content about what this group is doing.
Well, they actually, in her email, they said if the committee wanted to be at the rally to offer that booklet that's Efficiency Maine's provided. So it would be kind of like, we're standing around saying, take this book and we're here to answer any questions for you about how you can make your house more energy efficient or use less fuel.
Yeah, so that was kind of a two-parter. So one was be there if we're interested in being there on the day. The other was to contribute a video to promote energy efficiency or other work that the committee is doing that would be online and on the town's cable access station.
Well, from my standpoint, I'm happy to be there for the day to do the booklet. I'm not sure I have bandwidth, nor do we have the luxury time to put a video together.
Yeah,
Rather, to me, and I don't really have anything concrete in my head right now of what that would look like. But I could give up 2 hours and stand in the cold based on the fact that people are suffering because they don't have money to
Yeah.
put their oil tanks, and we need to help them figure out a way that or access opportunities so that they can improve their energy.
well,
It
thank you,
would be
Rick.
awesome to have a little video, but again, I don't see getting that done.
Yeah,
this
not with
quickly.
everything else we've got
Yeah.
going on. That's a bigger priority. All right, so Rick, you're willing to go that morning?
I looked at I have nothing going on February 19th,
Okay, thank you, Rick.
2 hours.
Enjoy the
If
chili and the
Anton wants to
chowder.
do it with me, he can do 1 hour and I'll do another hour, and then we only have an hour.
I'm looking at my calendar now. What are the hours, Rick? Or Jamie?
It's 10 to noon on February 19th. So it's
Rick, if
President's
you
Day
want to
weekend.
split up or you want to double team, I can join you on that day.
I'll do whatever you want, Dave. Happy to split it up so we only have to do an hour. Or to me, 2 hours is, I've stand on my feet for more than 2 hours. Put one of those pads in from LL Bean and my feet are toasty.
There you
I,
go.
I think it would be more fun to do it together, so that's,
All right, I'm happy. I'll bring a thermos of hot chocolate with peppermint schnapps in it.
I was gonna say with a little extra something to keep you warmer. All right, great. I will let Steffi Cox know that that you both are planning to attend on the 19th. Thank you for that.
David, I can grab one of the efficiency main tablecloths. We can put it on a small table, and we can put the books on top of that and stand there and hope that we can talk to residents.
I think that's good. And I have one of the metal card table type things from Lowe's that I can bring. That would be easy to do.
I have a sustainability tablecloth if you want it to.
Oh, that's even better. I like that. That's even better.
Okay. So I will get that to you probably like with I can ask them to put it in with your planning board stuff, Rick, if that works.
Who
Yeah,
else
because
is-
I should have another planning board packet before then. Yep.
Who else is going to be there among, I mean,
What
what
other groups?
other organizations are going to show up?
That's a good question. She didn't say. I don't know.
It's Girl Scout cookie time. And don't the Girl Scouts sell cookies now?
It's true. Maybe they'll be there. Might be able to
We should
get
get
some
somebody
dessert.
there with, we should get somebody there with petitions for the our
It's true.
proposal.
All right. So, good. Well, I'll work on, I'll follow up with Steffi and let her know that sustainability committee members will be there. And Rick, I will work on getting the sustainability tablecloth over to you. I don't know if they'll provide a table or not. I can check. So that might be one less thing that you all need to.
Yeah, we'll double check. And then between David and I, I'm sure we can come up with a table.
Okay, great. All righty. I did get an email from April saying that her kids brought home an evil virus, not COVID, and she's under the weather, so that's why she's not
No.
joining us today. So unfortunately, I don't have a town council update. Rick, do you have anything from on the planning board side that you'd like to share?
No, we kind of talked about Costco. There's IDEX is still moving forward and looks like they're going to go into the Scarborough Downs The old public safety building, some of the new vendors are getting ready to open up there. So that's kind of nice to see that whole project being converted. They're going to be starting to work on the 3-story senior living apartment that goes behind on the side, but behind the public safety building. So that'll start taking root. It looks like there's lots of things coming into Scarborough, from what I hear. Looks like we have a pretty full agenda, but it's not really anything too spectacular. Costco's a big project, though. That's could be pretty nice. Oh, the Aroma Joe's is about ready to open on the county road there.
Really?
Yeah, they've made some big gains. I don't know if you all remember, but the owner of that was the lady that died while
Scuba diving.
scuba diving off of Fort Williams. Kind of tragic accident, but I guess her family moved forward and the building looks nice, but it's a cookie cutter Aroma Joe's. That's it.
Is there any feedback from IDEX? Could they be a poster child for the EV parking discussion?
They actually didn't have to be prodded to put in. They're putting in some EV chargers. I'll bet it doesn't meet what our current draft ordinance would say, but they are putting some in.
You know, so are they laying additional conduit to put more in the future? Or are they just feeling like, done
I
is
made
done?
that recommendation when we did that, and I
Okay.
don't know, they're before us for their final site plan review this Monday, so we'll see.
okay,
I mentioned it to them. It's a great way to, have the flexibility for increasing. I'll see if they take it up, but again, we have no teeth in it. We can't make them.
right. It would be nice if they were forward thinking like that, though. Like, just because you
Well,
have a few doesn't mean that's all you are going to need in the future.
IDEX has certainly got a corporate climate that is in that direction, so
Yeah.
hopefully they're thinking about that.
Is there any less formal way to notice, acknowledge that they're doing something? Do we send them a letter of thanks, or this is naive, but I know we don't have anything with teeth in it, but if they're already doing something on their own, in the poster child sense, they ought to get credit for it.
Well, I like that, but I think some of it is based on, recommendations that they hear from the planning board. And then they come back to us the second round and, oh, by the way, they did decide to put in a couple.
Okay.
How big is the IDEX office in Scarborough?
I think it potentially is a 2-phase project. So the first one is administration and some production. And I think that's in the neighborhood of around 100,000 square feet. And then there's a second equally as large building, but that's just phase 2, but they have no timeline on that one. They'll have the land and they'll have the parking capabilities of making that addition, but they don't have a timeline for that as of right now. So it really comes down to what they did is they purchased nearly half of the innovation district, and they're creating a roundabout, or essentially a roundabout at the end of Innovation Way, and that's where IDEX will be.
So they're moving out of Westbrook, or they're going to maintain?
No, this is an expansion, so they're doing quite well.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks.
Well, our next meeting date is Wednesday, February 16th. I believe we will be back to the 16th. Are we the 16th or the 20th? Actually, I think that might be the 23rd. I think my date.
23rd, I think. Yeah.
Yep, it is the 23rd. Sorry about that. So, and we'll probably be back to hybrid. So those who can join and feel comfortable joining in person are welcome to, and we will still have the option to join remotely as well, if that works for folks.
Yep.
All
Works.
right,
Sure does.
all righty.
Jamie, thanks for all the work you did behind the scenes there. I think we're moving forward.
Absolutely. And thanks,
At times,
everybody.
I know frustrating, but I think we're all getting to the same place.
Yeah, I think that, hearing the perspectives and talking it through, I think it's super helpful. And again, this group just has so much knowledge, and I appreciate your enthusiasm and how you want to continue moving things forward. I think that's so important, and we'll try to do that, get this on the council's radar.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
All right, anybody want to do a motion to adjourn?
Yes,
I'm
let's
so
adjourn.
moved.
All right, I don't think we need a roll call vote on that.
Nope.
All right.
We're good.
Adjourned by
safe.
leaving.
Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.